feel like that's weird. Is that not? Is that in the frame?
No, I don't think so. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
So this is Aileen White, and she is Director of Strategic Communications at Winnipeg Humane Society.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Excellent. Well, Aileen, we actually go back a long way.
We do, oddly enough.
Oddly
yeah, no.
enough, I
Welcome
know.
back to Winnipeg.
Thank you. Nice to meet up with you again.
Thank you. Yeah, no kidding.
So we've definitely caught up a bit before
Yeah,
this. So
yeah.
all of our pre-social media adventures.
Yes, it didn't exist back then.
It didn't.
And yet, look at us. We're spring chickens.
Exactly. We won't tell what the year was. Okay. Do you remember when we used to work at Eaton's together?
Well, yes, I do. I remembered your name when you reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I couldn't believe. I thought, is that Charmin from Eaton's? And indeed it was and is. Yeah.
I know. It's kind of crazy. I don't really remember that much about the time. We just rocked up, sold some stuff, and went home.
Yeah, no, that was when life was
easy,
and yet it seemed complicated at the time. I know that it didn't necessarily seem as easy as now when I reflect back on it, but it definitely was much easier. Yeah.
Telephone and a giant cash till.
Yeah.
And I went do
Yes.
do do do.
And the most complicated thing was learning how to do the refunds. Yes.
Yeah, vaguely. I don't
Yeah.
remember. Imagine if we had to do that now. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we went camping together.
Yes, we did.
I always remember that.
And a tent, a tiny little tent,
Yeah.
and there were little tiny black bugs that I thought would crawl in my ears. I wasn't pleased with
I
that.
remember that.
Yeah, but I think I was tired enough that I fell asleep without worrying about it, without any assistance.
I have no idea. I remember singing some songs, yes. We don't need assistance anyway. Oh, that made it sound really bad, actually. Totally innocent. Anyway, so let's digress to 2016. Yikes.
Yeah, that's a big leap.
That is a big leap.
Lots
But
has
it seems
happened.
like, it's a long time, but it seems like actually no time at all. In a
No,
weird
oddly
way.
enough, I know. When you think
Yeah.
about it, I think I was about 19, 20 years old at the time, and here I am. I mean, what is that, 27, 28 years later? So
guess
that's
so.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
so-
know. In that sense, I wouldn't say, oh, gee, that's like a 30-year fast forward, but
Yeah.
indeed it is. I mean, we were just kind of figuring out, that was the beginning of what the heck am I going to do with the rest of my life, and now here we are at a completely different stage in our life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of bizarre, but
Mhm.
that's life, isn't
Yeah,
it?
no, it is. It's cool.
So, well, why don't you tell me a bit about your role at the Winnipeg Humane Society?
Well, it's, should I be looking at you or should I be looking at the
I think
camera?
we can do back and forth, maybe.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
I know.
I don't
See,
have
I'm
to-
used to,
I'll-
in my TV interviews that I deal with, I'm supposed to be
Yes.
looking directly
Well, maybe we
at
can look
the
more at the-
audience, and
maybe
so
we
I
can look
wasn't
more at
really
the camera,
sure.
actually.
So,
Okay.
or
I'm
we can just spread
inexperienced.
apart and admire my chandelier
It
and
is
my
gorgeous.
flowers.
Lovely.
No, my job or my career at the Winnipeg Humane Society is evolved over time, which is fantastic because even though I've been at one place for, what is it now, 12 or 13 years, it's been quite a long time, and I know I took about a two-year mat leave, give or take. But in there, I was hired at a time that the Humane Society was not exceptionally or broadly known in Winnipeg, and they were wanting to build the new shelter, and so there was a feasibility study that was done to see if Winnipeg would support the goal of raising funds or a capital campaign that would help support building the new shelter. And so my job was to come on board and help make the Winnipeg Humane Society well known. And so it was at that point I think about 75% of my job was capital campaign related, and which was very also PR related because it was informing the community of this incredible organization. And here we are. I mean, it's an incredibly well-known not-for-profit charity in Manitoba, one of our top charities in Manitoba. So that's neat because it started out as this humble little tiny place on Kent Street and is now at Hearst Way. And even though it's a 40,000 square foot shelter that deals with so many animals, like nearly 9,000 animals a year, and it doesn't necessarily look humble, it still is. It has those great that great backbone of really being a community organization.
Yeah, I looked at the history of the Winnipeg Humane Society, and I was surprised that it was so humble.
Yes,
to begin with, because I didn't even actually realize that it was a new building. I kind of assumed it maybe.
Right. Yeah.
But I was like, wow, total
yeah,
art.
that makes me feel proud. I mean, and that's one thing that I commonly bring up is that we can look, because of just the bricks and mortar element, can look very corporate, but yet we aren't. If you go in there, we spend very little on advertising. We spend very little on other extraneous things, because really the priority, the really fundamental value is still supporting the animals in our community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you tell me what a typical week is like for you?
Well, I mean, because of the evolution of my job, I deal with the PR element is part of my job, in the sense that I have a staff person who is the media contact and deals with that. But the public relations side of it is a large part, but I deal with a lot of the different elements and operations and business function in the organization. So that's where, I guess, in continuation from your first question, is that it's changed. It's had to evolve over time, just to adapt to how communications has changed over time, and what our community wants and expects of us.
Right.
So, and also what the organization needs, just from a business function and a succession function, of making sure that if the CEO is away or unavailable, that's me to step into that role. So that's where that's changed significantly. And so I am involved in those kind of elements of our shelter business function. So it's very, there are a lot of meetings. You also have to be available to meet with, if a donor pops by expectedly or unexpectedly, or a stakeholder of some sort, which can also be expectedly or unexpectedly. People still want to try and have that access to you, and I try and accommodate that as much as I can, because again, I think that's important. That's part of who we are as a community.
And there's like, what, 50% donations, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's closer to 90% donations.
Is it? Oh, I was just looking at your corporate thing.
Yeah, no, it's I'm not sure what you're referencing exactly, because it could be how we break it down.
Yeah,
but
possibly.
The backbone of the organization is largely donations. So that's either through our special events, through our monthly donors, through our bequests, so people who name us in their will, or our, I think I did say special events. I feel like I'm going to be forgetting something else in the midst of trying to rattle all of this off, but it is through those kind of, and then community events like socials or lemonade stands, and all of those, that literally is what helps the animals, are all those ways of giving to us, including people who knit the cat blankets and donate toys and food. I'm not kidding. All of that matters.
Yeah, of course.
So, and I feel proud of that, in all honesty, that you don't need to just be a very wealthy donor who gives to the Humane Society, that it is that person who can't necessarily give monetarily, or maybe they do as well, but that they do knit that cat blanket or drop off the newspapers so that we shred and put that in our puppy cages, that everybody in our community makes us thrive. So that's a big deal. So, right, so the typical day, I'm sorry, is not typical. But, I mean, there are meetings. We have things like our big management meetings, and I have my meetings with my staff people to make sure that we're on all of our deadlines for project management and our different campaigns that we have that are going to be going out, and that we're sharing our stories publicly on our social media feeds, that we're sharing our stories with the media, that we're sending out our communications tools that we need to the public. That our animals, that they are receiving the behavior treatment, that the staff share what certain long-term animals or animals that we may need to discuss in committee, where their status is at. It's a variety of meetings, but it's us always being held accountable to make sure that we're doing the most we can with the most minimal amount of money, with the support that we have from our community.
Excellent. That's like a lot of work. Okay, and so then what is your favorite part of the job?
What is the favorite part? Oh my goodness.
Or is there quite a few?
I would say there's quite a few. I'm really lucky because I really love my job. I know what my least favorite parts are, but and that is always if we are struggling with a particular, if an animal has been in our care for a long time and they thrive better in a home. And there were just 3 long-term dogs, like one that was in our care for almost a year, that finally got adopted a couple of weeks ago, and then 3 of the long-terms, like over 200 days, from 200 to almost 350 days in our care. 3 of them were adopted a couple of weeks ago. The staff had tears, like we were just whooping and freaking out. It was just phenomenal. So those kind of things, and if we can rehabilitate some of these animals, which we spend so much donor dollars on, because I think our community wants to know we just don't give up on an animal, that we we don't just euthanize. A lot of people ask us, like, what's the expiry date? Is it 3 weeks? Is it 3 months? There is no expiry. Once we start investing in that animal, we put every ounce of care that we need to try and have it thrive and survive until it finds its forever home. So that's probably like a favorite aspect because of how much we give to try and make that successful. And probably the sharing of our personal stories, like situations that have really struck my life. Our C-Spot Read program that we have, where we work with children with reading difficulties, that work with dogs. These are elementary school children. Even though that's not a direct part of my job, but that is a program of ours that I feel immensely proud of, just as a mother and as a professional, that if a child falls behind a grade or 2 or 3 or 4 in reading in elementary school, they are behind for life. And I just think about how that affects their self-esteem and how that affects their future as they move forward, and knowing that they can be paired with a dog who does not judge them and does not make them feel ridiculed, and just provides comfort, that they are feeling that they are nurturing the dog, feeling happy in that moment, and that the dog is nurturing them, and that they can then actually climb a grade or 2 or 3 or 4 ahead, is a phenomenal program to me. So that's a program I feel really proud of. There's just so much. In all honesty, I feel incredibly blessed where I work.
That definitely comes out. Well, it's a lovely program. That's amazing. And yes, well, I was looking at your website, and you have loads of events throughout the year, which is great. It's really amazing. So maybe tell me about a project that you're especially proud of, or that you really enjoy doing.
My goodness. Okay, well that's funny because
you just told me yes.
No,
Sorry.
there's no. That's a hoot. You know what? I'm really especially proud of, in all honesty, and I referenced that earlier, that I really love that this organization that helps. Well, internally, that come through our doors, 9,000 animals a year, but we help countless more in our community that don't enter our shelter, that we do make this huge impact, and that how we treat, there's that quote by Gandhi, like how a society treats their animals it reflects on how they are as a community, as a society, and that we help these beings that cannot help themselves because they cannot speak for themselves, and that we are there through thick and thin to make sure that we operate fiscally responsibly, and that we maintain having these open doors, that we pursue cruelty cases, that we pursue whatever is needed for the broken limbs, for the innards that are twisted up from some kind of something that got inside that an animal consumed, that owner can no longer afford to care for, that we are there when they can't turn to anybody else, and that fills me with pride, and really in the right pursuit of what I've chosen to do as a career. Yeah,
no, it's great. Okay, so what do you do to keep current in the PR industry?
Oh gosh, you have to read and stay. It's both, it's PR and it's everything, in all honesty. I mean, social media is constantly changing. There are so many different apps and tools that you can use to do your job better, and to try and stay on top of all that information is really quite challenging. But that is, I mean, there's different courses and workshops. I don't have time for that because of the breadth of my job, but one thing I try and do is stay, because I have to stay current on top of fundraising practices, operational practices, HR practices, social media, like it's literally across the gamut at this point. And I remember when it was just tough just to stay on top of PR, but really being mindful of what those tools are that help you either monitor your data, collect your data and reporting for reporting purposes to a board, help you do your job more efficiently. Like I remember when Hootsuite came along, and that to design tools. Like there's always these applications that are being created, and I try and at least read on and become aware of, so that I can either research it myself or advise other staff to research it and say, is this a better tool for you to do your job more efficiently?
And it's always great to actually find something, discover something. You're like, oh, I thought I knew it all. Oh my God, it's amazing. I can't believe I've been, or no, not know it all. But you know what I mean? You think you're like, yeah, I know stuff. And you're like,
Yeah,
Wow,
you know
this is
what?
amazing. Well, how could I not have known this?
Yeah, no, it is cool.
So,
It's the one. It's the I. In all honesty, in communications, because it's always changing. I never feel like I always. And it's funny because I'm very confident in what I do and I know what I do. Yet, on the other hand, I never feel like I know enough or too much. Like I always feel like you're constantly trying to pursue more and more information, and I'm lucky because I also get so many students who intern with me and younger people who come in as well that know new information and being
yeah.
open to that,
Yes, exactly.
not being intimidated by that, welcoming that and saying, how can I learn from this? How can I empower them to bring this knowledge to our organization so that we benefit and our community benefits from
Yeah,
it?
it's
So
always good to strive to learn something new every
yes.
day. It's always good. Okay, so let's see. I can't read my own writing.
Oh, really?
My own typing. I
Okay,
can't.
okay.
I need my granny glasses. What do you do? What do you wish you would have known before you started your career in PR? Well, we were talking about this earlier, and
No,
I know that
really?
it was like
What did I say?
Well, no, just in general, how it sort of just kind of you hadn't anticipated, like it just things just kind of fell
I think
into that.
no, and I think one what that I didn't know. I think I didn't have a mentor when I started out, and I've seen now with mentoring so many students and being able to kind of have them bounce ideas off of or moments of insecurity or self-doubt or career doubt, that's normal, and that if you do find somebody you trust, because I know even my seasoned colleagues, there are times where we are our inner vaults and we may need to bounce a situation off of each other, and that the value of that, of having somebody that you can consult on that private level of saying, and there's nothing wrong with having self-doubt, but of having a seasoned person. Often we are young and we become, we don't welcome that, and that we almost hold our information so close that we know that we aren't open to having advice, and or that we sometimes can be espousing advice too heavily, too pedantically, and there's that little bit of a give and take when it comes to mentorship. So if you can find somebody you trust, that can be your mentor, and that you aspire, helps you aspire to more in your career, and also helps you learn how to deal with self-doubt and or uncertain moments.
Yeah.
That is a biggie, I would say.
Okay, that's very good to know. Because I've been in that situation where you're just flying by the seat of your pants, and you make it work. But it is nice to have
Yeah,
a little somebody to
I
go
think
to.
so.
Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because you just need to learn from other people. And how important is writing in your career?
It's an everyday occurrence. I mean, I'm glad that I guess I'm confident and familiar enough with writing that I know when I have a yucky writing day, that I know it's just a yucky writing day, and that it helps me with other people who, because I can do it, or the communications coordinator who I have, who is so talented at writing, that we can do it so efficiently that it's extremely important, because a lot of people feel insecure about their writing and or their spelling ability or something, and learning to make somebody feel really comfortable with it and say, you know what, I just need a little blurb from you. It's okay if it doesn't have proper punctuation or writing or excuse me, or spelling, and that I can then take that information and shape that and not make somebody feel lesser than. It actually astounds me how, and now people realize that, but that was a big hump, starting out with people, because we often kind of feel insecure about that. Not everybody has a career that involves so much writing, and then all of a sudden you have to share an opinion. You're like, I'm not feeling good about that. That I can help with that is a good thing. So it's a pretty big deal. It's a commonplace thing, but it's now different styles of writing, not just replying to complaints, but grants writing, or letters to the or a board report, or like it's so many different styles of writing. That's adapting to that that was a harder thing.
Okay, but now you're seasoned pro.
Even then, I still
But
I have days
that's
that kind of I don't feel like I'm off my game, or I don't understand that. Yeah, we just have that. We do, even when you are seasoned.
Okay.
And cutting yourself some slack and knowing today or the next couple days I'm just not super on my writing game, and that's just part of it.
Okay.
Can't always be perfect.
No.
We can't, but we often don't in this day and age. You push
Yeah, it's
yourself.
all so pushed. Yeah,
Mhm.
sure enough. Okay, well, I'll keep that in mind. It's Eileen said it's okay.
Well, it can be
I'm
hard.
old.
We can be very hard on ourselves, or at least I know I'm very A-type, so I can be very hard on myself. I've
Yeah,
been
I think
told.
I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh no. So I don't know. We can talk about your lovely little kitty cat now.
Oh, where is she? Is
She's
she
having a
hidden
little
away?
snooze.
Yeah, is she?
Yeah.
Oh,
Shall I
yeah,
pick
she
her up?
is. Oh my goodness, sure.
I think she's a really good. Okay. Yara, you have to come on camera. You're gonna be beautiful.
I don't know if she's gonna.
Oh yay!
Oh, CP.
She's so cute. There she is. Look.
Oh. Are you gonna? I
Is
don't
she
know.
gonna
She's
be
gonna want to
scared?
sit on my lap. No, she won't be scared, but she might just want to cuddle.
Ah.
Hi, monkey. Who's that? Oh, little monkey.
Pretty cute.
She is. She's very special. She came in as a little litter mate to 2 other kitties,
Yeah.
and they were so young, and we didn't know how old they are, so I'm not exactly sure of her
Ah.
age. I think she might be around 8 or 9 months old, but she, I told myself that I'd never get a kitten
Yeah.
again.
Okay.
And did you want down, or did you just want to go over here? And
Oh!
monkey, sorry. Okay, and sorry, that seems
Oops.
solid. And there I got a little tiny kitten, and boy, was that ever a lot to adapt to.
Oh, yeah? But you had cats before.
Oh yeah,
Or
no,
dogs?
I've had
Oh, okay.
kittens, and I've been around dogs, and my mom has a dog, and my sister's like, so I've had dogs. I mean, in my condo, which I live in, which is not a dog friendly condo, but sadly, no, I can have a cat, and I'm naturally a cat person in that sense. But no, she's a beautiful, loving temperament and disposition, and I totally believe somehow that animals pick you, because I'd gone for how long without a cat and thinking I would pick an adult cat, and my son and I were wanting a cat, and then I found her, and she just, I don't know,
That's the
she
right
just
fit.
fits, and I never had to worry about her scratching him or hurting him, or even she's around my boyfriend's dog, and for how much his dog is a little bit testy with her, not a
Okay.
little bit, quite a lot testy, that she doesn't hurt Sandy is phenomenal. So she just has this inherently, and I'm lucky, loving disposition, that she is protective but not vicious, where you
Yeah.
worry about the claw through the nose and the eyes. And
It's nice that on your site you have the matching the different personalities. I thought that was brilliant.
yeah, well, she was so young that she didn't even fit that. But I mean, I did actually talk with our behavior staff, because we do have our Yelp line and that people can call or
Okay.
check our website. But I did ask them about a behavior tip, because she was getting, I was worried about some behavior stuff with her and how to interact her with the dog, and
Oh, okay.
litter box issues related to that. So I felt like I knew everything litter box related, and I learned new stuff with our phenomenal behavior staff. I'm not kidding. So yeah.
that's
It's
great
been a
support, though,
process. Yeah.
Well, she's
Yeah.
so adorable. She's so cute.
Yes, she is.
Yay, Yara. Okay, let's get back on
Okay.
business. So do you have any experience working for an agency or anything different from non-profit?
No, I would say my McNally Robinson, or when I first started out, even like with the city, was was not related to not-for-profit. But no, since then it's been not-for-profit. And of course, my agency experience would have been with the agencies of record that work with the Humane Society, or worked with me when I was with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, okay.
So that's, I would say, my most direct agency experience, or in my volunteer capacities with agencies that work on that level. Mhm.
Okay. And okay, this is a good one. What 3 tips would you offer someone just starting out in PR?
What 3
All my
tips?
classmates would be lovely, anxious to know.
The 3 tips. Oh my goodness. Okay, I wish I thought about that one.
That's okay.
I would say the 3 tips. The first thing that I guess that popped into my head when you asked that, what was related to what I said earlier about if you find a mentor to try and
definitely.
really develop that relationship, that's really important. And I mean, a good, like, really learn what a mentored relationship should be. So it shouldn't be somebody who's guiding you, not overcrowding you. But
Okay.
but the big thing is a thick skin. is a thick skin, and and what do I mean by that is, our job is up for criticism by everybody. Everybody thinks they can do better.
Sure.
And that you can take that really personally.
Okay.
And what you need to do whenever you take that feedback, and hopefully you'll find a boss or a colleagues who give you feedback, and you take that, you should take it in relation to the project and not in relation that you suck or that you don't know what you're doing. I've often found, and this is a common thing I've had to in my relationships with the people that I mentor, is really stress that they often personalize it and say, oh, I'm no good at this, or I'm a crappy writer, or I'm not creative enough, or I suck at what, and we just internalize all this negative self-talk. And it's like, no, you might be stronger at writing, or maybe you're off writing that for that day or two, or whatever that may be, but not to, the more you do the negative self-talk, the worse you become. Sure. And just, if it's not your best project, it's not your best project. And then sometimes good enough is good enough.
Okay.
Your workload may be so high at that point that good enough is what you need to accept. And that may be hard, because I know it's still hard for me, but a good employer will allow for that.
Okay.
And a good professional will allow for that yourself.
Okay.
So that's really important. And what was the other thing I was going to say? The third bit of advice. Oh gosh, I can't remember now. God darn it, Charmin. Oh well.
Okay. If you think of it, just pop it in.
Okay.
Did your education prepare you for working in PR?
Formally, no. I mean, in a roundabout way, when I first started out, no. I mean, I thought I was going to potentially be a teacher and then be in a bookstore environment, or marketing or publicity for books, somehow in our community, or publishers. And I was lucky enough to have this phenomenal time at McNally Robinson, but it both did and it didn't. Like, I feel like the trajectory kind of makes sense now for my personality, and all the different courses and pathways that I took to get here. But it took a lot of different little pieces to plug into that. It wasn't like, here's my one degree, and that it was a series of educational steps and learning steps through workshops and courses and boards and committees and all these different things that brought me to where I am.
And I guess your experience working on boards and that really helped you with the director side of things in terms of just understanding the other needs of
at
those
first I
stakeholders.
didn't have that again, and so that's the sad part, because you kind of have to get to this place where you learn all of that. And then I started to take courses in board governance and what have you, so that was really helpful to me, because I knew where I wanted to go.
Right.
And when I felt at a certain point when my career was a bit stagnant, or I knew I wanted to kind of bring it up to that next level of leadership, I started to amp up my leadership through very specific boards and committee work, to make sure that I was exposing myself to kind of what felt a little bit fearful or unknown, but I know that also helps push you and teaches you really valuable lessons and things. And that can be hard. I mean, depending on where you're at in your career and what you're able to do, and also where you're at with, often they say there's not enough women at the board table or in certain positions, and it's because if you're having children or what have you. And I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to fit that into my life. Not everybody has that graciousness permitted to them, that with the people around, that they can have that support. And so I'm thankful that I was able to have those pieces in play that helped me, and those people in play that helped me accomplish that.
Sounds good. And then I guess you spoke for the Canadian Marketing Association, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
How was that? I mean, I guess that obviously helped you with public speaking, but what did it all entail?
That back then, I think that was in relation to social media. I mean, when I came back from maternity leave, social media was really taking off at that point. I mean, there was not Twitter and Instagram or anything like that, but that the importance of videos and the social environment was there. And so I spoke about that, because we were one of those non-for-profits who were out of the gate first with that.
Okay.
and I knew that I needed to keep up on it. So I was lucky because I implemented that when other people were trying, other PR professionals trying to fight why it was important.
Oh,
I
really?
am not
Oh
kidding.
my goodness.
So for the longest time, for years, or they actually thought it was pointless. Like I remember going to a big, huge digital conference, and they had people put their hands up in the room who thought it was like BS and who thought it was legit. And let me tell you, there's a lot of hands up at that time. I'm not
Wow.
kidding. So it was.
It's crazy how much we take for granted now, though. Actually.
Yeah, no, it's quite
amazing.
bizarre.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember like I watched that, you know, when my son was born and knew I had to come back and implement all of this for the organization. So I'm lucky that I had the support that I did just to do that without
Sure.
having to create 17 million policies or make this huge, have a lot of pushback from a business case perspective.
Yeah.
That I was able to invest in it the way that I did for our organization at the time. It really helped.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And yay, so we're right out the gate. Okay, so let's see. What has surprised you most about working in PR, actually?
Oh, probably again the
Just
social
that
aspect.
aspect,
It's
yeah.
some organization, like just how fast everything's changing and how big it is, and or even it's surprising to me that you'll still get people who will say as if investing in social is free because a lot of the applications are free, and yet they don't consider the staff time that's involved or yet the commitment, you know, from that resource point of view. And it's not. I mean, I remember first starting that and trying to contain all of that myself and manage that, and realizing it's a huge investment in your organization, but you have to do it because people
Yes,
are wanting
absolutely.
communication. And I remember when I first started, you get a letter from a supporter, a client, or a patron, and you had up to 3 months to reply back to them through
Oh
snail
wow.
mail. Like that was the norm.
Wow.
Like a month was like, you know, bravo. And now if you're not back to them within an hour, it's a smear campaign online. So that change is, I mean, because we're really into that kind of level of public shaming.
Yeah.
And that's changed dramatically. I mean, people have that, and they are very unforgiving in a lot of places. Not everybody, but it astounds me at how quickly people become exceptionally critical, and the lack of benefit of the doubt, or I'll wait and reach out to somebody and see how management, maybe that was just a negative or a bad staff person who may need more training or was having a bad day, to I'm never shopping at that organization again. And I find that astounding, saying, well, really, like, do you think that every other person who owns the company and or operates it would be fine with that? So I find that that kind of level of severity and harshness and judgment astounding and disappointing. Very
I think
much.
people can use it as just like they lash out. No, not that they necessarily mean it, or will still think the same thing 2 hours later.
No.
But at that moment, right there and then.
Yeah, it's very, they're
Yeah.
quite, I've been down a lot of really horrific social media campaigns
Really?
of public shaming for an organization, and it is astounding and brutal for staff. The
That's quite
psychological impact on staffing for that and how much you have to spend on trying to help them recover from that is quite astounding.
Wow, it's funny because no one would ever think from that
Nope,
point of
they
view
don't.
at all.
And surprisingly, a lot of communications people don't either, because I've seen them do the same thing themselves, and I'm like, clearly you've never experienced this in your career, because you would not do that.
Wow, yeah, until it happens to you, you don't realize.
Whatever
not so
happened to
good.
benefit of the doubt and trying to raise, and like, you know, kind of like the Obama, like when they go low, you go high. And
Right.
I really believe in that as a personal, you know, motto or credo, and I think that people need to establish what their own moral compass is and try and operate from a better place.
Absolutely, and it's also just being mindful, because it's easy to read a lovely inspirational quote and go, oh, want to live my life that way. And then when you're in the moment, 3 hours later or 5 hours later in the day, it's
Or
you completely forgotten about it. Exactly, and you just go, an automatic response can happen, but it's taking that step back and go, oh no. Da, 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 da. I just recently watching an interview with Jack Ma from Alibaba,
Oh, okay.
and it was quite interesting, really, really interesting. He applied to get into Harvard like 10 times, never got in.
Oh, okay.
When McDonald's came to his town or village in China, he didn't get any of the jobs. And so really just like failure. But then he had this, he had this idea and he just made it work. And he's
Oh, wow.
talking about,
Perseverance.
yeah, and he's just really smart man, but just it manifests in different ways and stuff. And
Isn't that the truth?
and how he didn't get those jobs for a reason, perhaps. But yeah, really interesting. You should try to watch it. It'll just be on.
No, I will.
on
I
YouTube.
have to take a look for that. No, I would like that very much.
Yeah, and he's talking because he talks about like Walmart and stuff, and it's just very smart. And he also mentioned the whole thing like when they go low, he'll go high, or so quite interesting. Anyway, so let's see what else we have. Well, you've mentioned how technology has really affected your daily work. I mean, it's 24/7, isn't it? When a company is hiring for an entry-level PR position, what makes a candidate stand out? Ooh, it's a tough one.
It is and it isn't. I have very specific qualifications that's needed for the communications coordinator position. And ideally they need at least training in media relations. I like it if they have how their temperament deals with if they keep an even keel about unexpected situations, like how they handled their projects and schoolworks and unexpected hiccups that maybe happened in group work or whatever that may be.
Okay.
Because a lot is thrown at them, so I kind of need somebody who's not going to be frazzled, because that is not a good fit.
Okay.
I need strong InDesign skills. I need strong writing skills, teamwork aspect, but also can pump out a lot of work on their own. It's a very demanding position. So I look at a really broad spectrum of those communication skills, and you don't need to be brilliant in everything, but you need to be really strong in writing, because there's a lot of that. And there's the web aspect. I mean, there's just so many things, in all honesty.
So a really good
And what will fit into the culture. Yes, a multi-fit.
Yeah.
And what will fit into the culture. Often people, when I've had to say, after I've met them, and I think, oh my goodness, they're so impressive, but they're just not the right fit for our environment. And it makes me feel so sad, because it's like, you're fantastic and you're going to do great things, but you're just not the right fit here. And that's a responsible thing from an HR point of view, to make sure that person's going to fit and be successful from that point of view. But it can be hard to hear when you're on the search.
Starting out and you want the job.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that feels poopy, but that's a reality, and
well, it's reality everywhere, I suppose. Well, how big is your team?
Oh my goodness. Well, because it's not just communications,
Okay.
I'd have to count it from departments, because I have a few different departments that are affected, like in my portfolio.
Okay.
Yeah, so there'd be a variety
So
of
is
direct
it-
reports, and then their staff also, in a roundabout way.
So would
But
it
my
entail
closest,
marketing and
I have my communications coordinator, that's probably my right hand, but I mean, we have the group meetings with, because I have adoption and then foster and
okay, so yeah.
yeah, like a variety of
Okay.
areas that report. Yeah.
Sounds good. We won't go into it. It sounds complicated. Okay. I asked you that earlier about the Canadian Marketing Association. But are you involved with any other professional organizations like the CPRS or IABC?
I used to be more so, when again my job was just kind of more isolated into
Right.
just PR, but now that it's so broad spectrum, and I have to kind of keep up from all those aspects, like
Right.
the HR and everything, so no, I'm not as directly related in, and so I feel sad about that, in all honesty. But I used to regularly attend their luncheons. I felt they were very informative. I mean, they had the CPRS. I do receive their emails, because I try and then get staff either out to them, or so I think they're important organizations to be a part of, though, if you can be.
Yeah, I've been to only at this point one networking thing. But It was
Okay.
fantastic.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
a really great way to.
No, I
to
really
know
enjoyed it
people
when I
and-
had the opportunity to attend regularly. I tried to do it monthly, and I actually made a couple of really long-term friendships that I've known since the beginning of my career, that were made back then, that I still carry
Oh, that's
forward
amazing.
today.
That's
Yeah.
good. And it's nice to have good friendships within a work environment as well.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
I'm
so you
very
can relate,
I'm lucky.
You know how to.
I make friends easy, so that's one good blessing.
Yeah, you can talk to people. Okay. Do you admire anybody in the field that you particularly kind of think, oh,
I know this is going to sound like I'm brown nosing, but I have to say I really admire my boss Javier, and I say that in the most truly admirable way, because I've not had the opportunity. I've had the opportunity to volunteer with really incredible leaders, and I take leadership really seriously about what those values are. And I know I've given talks. I gave a talk at the CPRS actually on what leadership is, and I've not yet had the opportunity until now to really work with somebody who I truly admire from a leadership point of view, and just the professionalism that he brings and the credibility from. And it's not just PR. Like, he has a very strong marketing background, but notoriously too many communicators are not planners. They don't do strategic planning, which I'm heavy. Mine is whether the department reports to me or not. I'm the strategic, like, think strategically person of the organization, and data and how to influence boards and people with credible data has to be obtained and has to be used as a very important tool in our career, in our profession. And it astounds me at how many people don't plan. They don't have a written plan. They don't utilize that tool, and it's very frustrating, because that kind of level of professionalism should be continued and carried through in our profession. And that actually allowed me to then, with a new CEO that came in a year ago this past June, see what I brought to the table from that point of view, because I really believed in that and carried that forward. So I think that's he is an incredible influencer that way in our field.
Oh, it's really refreshing, and it's just inspirational, isn't it? Because then, like, we're learning about all the planning and the strategy, and all how everything fits together. But you mentioned how you have to also take all that data to a board, which makes sense, but never thought of that at this point, because I'm like, okay, how can I use this research just for a project? But everything's really a project in a sense, isn't it?
Everything is a project, and getting staff to think that way is really neat. And I love all of a sudden getting and having that aspect of where I am that from a strategic operations point of view, where I then have to put things back on staff to think about, it's really neat to kind of see that light go on in their head of saying, can we X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, well, but why would you need the X, Y, and Z? Or you start asking those questions and having the light go on and go, right, like, strategically, why do I need this? Or how would that help me? Or that's not the fit, or this is how we amend it to fit what we need. Or it's amazing to see how that is, because that does not come naturally to people. It does not the average person that I have witnessed. So it's really neat if you have that opportunity to get into that habit early. It helps you. And eventually, when you're really seasoned now, like, I typically kind of know, because I am so seasoned in the profession, but I still use those basic tools of planning and data to look at and help my case of understanding. I love Google Analytics. Do I have the time to dig through it all the time? No. But I do use it because it helps inform, how do we restructure our website? What do we do? Is how our fundraising pieces on how we're presenting that working? How are people tracking? It's like, whatever that may be, like, know what your benchmarks are, what your objectives are, what your goals are, and then stay on message. It's really quite a phenomenal thing to get into.
And then you can be president.
No.
Like, some stuff that's just happened. Okay. Well, I just thought maybe you might be able to share a little bit of light about your personal life.
Oh God, haven't we talked enough?
Well, yeah, no, I know, but I'm just going to say, just
look
not
at
that
I see,
personal.
we're at 42
Holy
minutes. This is ridiculous. I think we should just wrap up.
Okay, fine. All right. Well, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to tell me, or anything we haven't covered, or any inspirational
thoughts? No, I think I've said a lot. I'm a gabber, so I think I've said a lot.
Actually.
I'm good, yeah.
So, okay. Well,
thank you for the opportunity, actually.
My pleasure. Thank you for talking to me.
Yeah, no, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck to the rest of the students, too.
Okay. But not as good as for me. No, I'm joking. Okay, bye.